There's one part of living abroad that nobody talks about until you experience it yourself. Many of the things Americans dream about when moving abroad can absolutely be true. Yet there's one overlooked challenge that often catches expats off guard after the initial excitement fades. We break down the biggest surprises, overlooked challenges, and common mistakes expats make when building a new life overseas, backed by data and insights from Numbeo, Internations, and Expatistan. Be sure to watch until the end for the one challenge of living abroad that almost nobody speaks about, but can make or break your experience. You imagine moving abroad will feel like an endless adventure, but what happens when the adventure becomes everyday life? At first, living abroad feels like stepping into a completely different world. Every day brings something new to discover, and even the simplest moments feel exciting. Walking through unfamiliar streets, hearing a different language, and experiencing a new culture can make you feel like you're living inside the dream you've imagined for years. The food becomes part of the adventure too. Every meal feels like an opportunity to discover something new. Whether you're trying local dishes, visiting neighborhood markets, or finding hidden restaurants, the experience feels fresh and exciting. Even a quick trip to buy groceries can feel like an exploration. Then there are the new experiences. You notice different customs, traditions, and ways of life. Weekends are filled with exploring places you've never seen before. Everyday moments feel special simply because they're happening in a new country. It's easy to believe the excitement will last forever, but eventually something changes. The novelty begins to fade, not because the country becomes less interesting, but because life starts becoming normal again. The routines that existed before the move slowly return. You still need to do laundry. The pile of clothes doesn't disappear because you're living overseas. You still have bills to pay. Rent is due. Utilities need attention. Budgets still matter. You still run errands. Groceries need to be purchased. Appointments need to be scheduled. Daily tasks continue demanding your time. And problems don't stop appearing either. Things break. Plans go wrong. Bureaucracy can be frustrating. Unexpected challenges show up when you least expect them. This is the moment many people never anticipate when dreaming about life abroad. They imagine the excitement, the travel, and the freedom, but they don't imagine the return of ordinary life. The country doesn't change. The beautiful streets, the culture, and the opportunities are still there. What changes is that everyday life returns, and understanding that reality may be one of the most important parts of building a successful life abroad. Don't miss the finale. It's when everything about living abroad becomes crystal clear. The feeling you thought was happiness was actually just excitement wearing a different name. In the early months of living abroad, it's easy to feel like you've found the answer to everything. The move feels validating. Every new discovery seems to confirm that you made the right decision. The unfamiliar environment creates a constant sense of stimulation, and each day brings something different to experience. For many Americans, this period feels transformative. The excitement of navigating a new country, adapting to a different lifestyle, and exploring unfamiliar places creates a powerful emotional rush. Life feels bigger, brighter, and more meaningful than before. That's why many Americans mistake the honeymoon phase for permanent fulfillment. At first, the distinction isn't obvious. The excitement feels so strong that it's easy to assume it will always be there. The energy of starting over can create the impression that every problem has been left behind and that happiness has finally been found. But eventually, reality begins to settle in. The novelty fades. The streets that once felt fascinating become familiar. The foods that seemed exotic become part of a normal routine. The experiences that once felt extraordinary gradually become everyday occurrences. Life stabilizes. You develop habits. You establish routines. You learn where to shop, how to get around, and what your weekly schedule looks like. The uncertainty that once made everything feel exciting starts to disappear. And with that, the emotional high disappears as well. This doesn't mean anything is wrong. It doesn't mean the move was a mistake. It simply means that no matter where you live, human beings eventually adapt to their surroundings. What once felt extraordinary becomes normal. This is where many people start asking questions they never expected. If the excitement is gone, am I still happy here? Did I move because I truly wanted this life or because I was chasing a feeling? Those questions can be uncomfortable, but they're also important, because lasting fulfillment abroad isn't built on constant excitement. It begins when the excitement fades and real life takes its place. Stick around to understand why you shouldn't expect any country to fix your personal conflicts. The biggest challenge you take abroad is the one that travels with you. Before making the move, it's easy to believe that a different country will solve problems that have been building for years. The idea feels convincing. A new environment promises a fresh start, new opportunities, and distance from the frustrations of everyday life. It can seem like crossing a border will also leave old struggles behind. For a while, that belief may even feel true. The excitement of settling into a new place creates momentum. There are new sights to see, new routines to learn, and new goals to focus on. The change itself can be energizing enough to push personal concerns into the background. But as life becomes more familiar, something unexpected often happens. The same stress that existed before the move can begin to reappear. Deadlines, responsibilities, uncertainty, and daily pressures don't disappear simply because the scenery has changed. They may look different, but they can still create the same emotional weight. Anxiety can return as well. Instead of worrying about old situations, new concerns take their place. Questions about finances, long-term plans, relationships, visas, language barriers, or career stability can begin occupying the same mental space. Then comes self-doubt. When the excitement fades, some people start wondering whether they made the right decision. They question their expectations, their goals, and sometimes even their reasons for moving in the first place. And dissatisfaction can follow, not because the country failed them, but because they expected a location to solve challenges that were never tied to a location. This realization can be difficult, yet it is one of the most valuable lessons of living abroad. A new country changes your environment. It doesn't automatically change you. Growth still requires effort. Confidence still has to be built. Personal struggles still need to be addressed. Wherever you go, you remain the same person facing many of the same internal battles. Moving abroad can create incredible opportunities for change, but lasting fulfillment comes from more than a change of address. It comes from personal growth that happens within. Keep watching to know why you shouldn't underestimate the loss of belonging. The hardest thing to miss abroad is often something you never realized you had. When people imagine moving to a new country, they usually focus on what they're gaining. Better opportunities, new experiences, different cultures, and a chance to build a life that feels more aligned with their goals. The possibilities are exciting, and the future seems full of promise. What many don't think about is the quiet feeling of belonging they leave behind. At first, the loss isn't always noticeable. The excitement of settling into a new environment keeps attention focused on what's ahead. Every day brings new discoveries, and there is little time to reflect on what has changed. But as months pass and routines become normal, the absence of familiar connections can become more apparent. Many expats discover that family is far away. The people who once shared everyday moments are no longer just a short drive away. Birthdays, holidays, celebrations, and unexpected gatherings often happen without you. Phone calls and video chats help, but they are not quite the same as being there. Friendships change too. Even strong relationships can evolve when distance becomes part of the equation. life continues for everyone. Friends develop new routines, new responsibilities, and new experiences. The connection may remain, but the rhythm of the relationship often changes. Then there are the traditions that quietly disappear. The familiar holiday gatherings, local customs, favorite neighborhood events, and small routines that once felt ordinary are suddenly gone. Many of these things seem insignificant until they are no longer part of daily life. This is when many people realize that belonging is more than simply living somewhere. It's the comfort of shared experiences, familiar faces, and a sense of connection to a community. You can love your new country and still miss feeling at home. Those feelings are not contradictory. They can exist at the same time. Appreciating a new life abroad doesn't erase the emotional ties to where you came from. In many ways, learning to live with both feelings becomes part of the journey itself. Make sure to watch all the way through. You won't believe what we found to be the one thing you should avoid to lose. What happens when you leave behind not just a place, but the version of yourself that existed there? Before moving abroad, most people rarely think about how much of their identity is connected to familiar surroundings. Back home, life develops a sense of continuity. The people around you know your history, understand your personality, and recognize your place in the community. There is comfort in being known. People know you. They know your background, your habits, your strengths, and even your quirks. Conversations require less explanation because much of your story is already understood. You don't have to constantly introduce yourself or explain where you fit. Routines define you as well. The coffee shop you visit, the route you take to work, the friends you see, and the activities that fill your week all contribute to a stable sense of self. These patterns become so familiar that they feel permanent. As a result, identity feels stable. You know who you are in relation to the people and places around you. There is a sense of predictability that comes from years of shared experiences and established relationships. Then comes the move abroad. Suddenly, many of those anchors disappear. The people around you may know nothing about your past. Your accomplishments, reputation, and social circles often remain behind. Even simple interactions can remind you that you're starting from scratch in a place where few people know your story. The routines that once structured your days are gone too. New systems, unfamiliar customs, and different expectations replace what once felt automatic. For a time, it can feel as though parts of your identity have been left behind with your old life. This experience can be unsettling, but it can also be transformative. Starting over abroad often means rebuilding who you are. Not because your past disappears, but because you're given an opportunity to redefine yourself in a new environment. The process can be challenging, yet it often leads to greater self-awareness. In the absence of old labels and familiar expectations, you begin discovering which parts of your identity truly belong to you. Don't go anywhere and see what happens when you build freedom with no purpose at all. Achieving the freedom you wanted creates a question you never expected to face. For many people, the dream of living abroad begins with a desire for more freedom. They want to break away from routines that feel restrictive, leave behind environments that no longer fit, and create a life with more choices and flexibility. The focus is often on escaping stress, escaping expectations, escaping a lifestyle that no longer feels fulfilling. The move represents an opportunity to start fresh and leave unwanted parts of life behind. Then comes flexibility. Suddenly there is more control over how time is spent. Days feel less structured. New possibilities appear. Life becomes less predictable, and for a while, that can feel incredibly liberating. And of course, there is freedom. Freedom to live somewhere new. Freedom to explore different priorities. Freedom to build a life that looks different from what once seemed inevitable. For a time, that freedom feels like the ultimate goal. But eventually, a different question begins to emerge. Now what? Once the move is complete and the excitement settles, many people realize that freedom by itself isn't necessarily fulfilling. Having more options doesn't automatically provide direction. Having fewer restrictions doesn't automatically create meaning. This becomes one of the most overlooked expat challenges. People spend years planning their escape, but far less time thinking about what comes after it. They know what they want to leave behind, yet they haven't fully defined what they want to build. Without a larger sense of purpose, even a life filled with freedom can start to feel surprisingly empty. The excitement of possibility eventually gives way to the need for something deeper. That's when many expats discover an important truth. Freedom is not the final destination. It's a tool. And the real challenge is deciding how to use it to create a life that feels meaningful, rewarding, and worth living long after the adventure of moving abroad becomes ordinary. You'll want to see the result should you wait for the country to feel perfect. The biggest mistake in living abroad is believing there's a perfect country waiting to be found. When people first move overseas, it's easy to believe that somewhere out there is a place where everything works exactly as they imagined. If one country doesn't feel right, maybe another will. If one city has drawbacks, perhaps the next destination will finally deliver the ideal life they've been searching for. But over time, a different reality becomes clear. Every country has frustrations. Some are obvious from the beginning, while others only appear after months or years of living there. What initially seemed charming can eventually become irritating. Every country has trade-offs. The benefits that attract people often come with compromises. Lower cost may mean fewer conveniences. Better weather may come with other challenges. No place offers advantages without disadvantages, and every country has inconveniences. Daily life anywhere includes obstacles, annoyances, and imperfections. The location changes, but the reality of being human does not. People who constantly search for perfection often end up disappointed because perfection was never the problem to begin with. And this is where I finally understood the part nobody talks about. I realized the hardest part of living abroad wasn't visas, language, money, or bureaucracy. It was what happened after those challenges disappeared. Once the paperwork was complete, the routines were established, and life became stable. There was no longer a major obstacle to focus on. The excitement had settled. The distractions were gone. Because then, I had to face something much deeper, myself, the expectations I carried, the questions I avoided, the habits, fears, and uncertainties that had followed me across borders. In the end, living abroad wasn't just about discovering a new country. It was also about discovering that no destination can replace the inner work required to build a fulfilling life. It's time to reveal the part of living abroad nobody wants to talk about. The moment you finally settle abroad is the moment the real journey actually begins. Living abroad eventually stops being an adventure. It becomes life. And once it becomes life, you're forced to answer bigger questions. What gives my life meaning? Where do I belong? What kind of future am I building? Who am I becoming? Because the truth is, the biggest mistake Americans make abroad is thinking moving is the transformation. The real transformation begins after the move, and many people aren't prepared for that. That's where long-term expat regrets often start, not from the move itself, but from what wasn't built after it. To avoid that, it comes down to a few things. Build purpose, not just freedom, because freedom without direction eventually feels empty. Build community, intentionally, as belonging won't happen automatically. Expect normal life to return. That's not failure, that's reality. Focus on personal growth, not just geographic change, because the people who thrive abroad don't just create a new address, they create a new life. Living abroad can absolutely be incredible, but eventually the beaches become normal. The excitement fades. The country becomes everyday life. And that's when the real journey begins, because the part nobody talks about is the part that changes you the most. Watch more of our videos to hear honest experiences from long-term expats about what it really takes, not only to move abroad, but to make it sustainable in the long run.